Hi, this is Distracted Willow, and I just finished playing Tactical Breach Wizards, and like a lot of other people, noticed some similarities with Into the Breach. So in this video, I'll try to identify what makes these games unique, how they differ, and then reach some conclusion about their genre. First off, I'm convinced Tom Francis, author of Tactical Breach Wizards, understood the resemblance between his game and Into the Breach and purposely used the word breach in the title as a nod to that. I can already see these names are going to come up a lot, so from now on I'll use Wizards to refer to Tactical Breach Wizards and Breach for Into the Breach. I hope this doesn't get confusing. For those who haven't played the games, I'll try to keep spoilers to a minimum. I'll mostly be talking about game mechanics and genre. But first, let me quickly summarize Wizards and Breach. Wizards is a single-player turn-based tactics game which upon further scrutiny is actually much more like a puzzle game. You play as a group of wizards in an espionage comedy caper with witty banter reminiscent of Joss Whedon-style writing, as in Buffy and the MCU. There's Zan, a leader and time wizard able to foresee a little into the future, yet emotionally stuck in the past. And each turn in the level sees you playing through various scenarios in Zan's mind until you see a future where you are content enough with the result to continue. You know, like Doctor Strange. Then there's Jen, the wisecracking weather witch with a wobbly wickle whisker who uses humor to hide her insecurities. Jen, not the cat. Throughout the game, you'll form a team of 5 wizards with unique abilities that help you take out, quite literally a lot of the time, swathes of goons primarily through collision damage and defenestration in order to prevent World War V and alter the course of human history. Breach is also a single-player turn-based tactics game which upon further scrutiny is actually much more like a puzzle game. It's also a roguelike with minimal narrative. You play as a triplet of pilots operating mechs from the future on a mission to protect what's left of human civilization from the threat of extinction by the Vek, a race of kaiju-level alien insects that have infested Earth. As you play, you'll have to defend the cities of the corporate nations by using the Vek's own power against them before going deep underground to obliterate them in their lair. Both games are almost perfect information games, whose core gameplay revolves around attacking and manipulating the enemies. What's a perfect information game? You ask. Essentially, it's a game with no hidden information. It's a game where the game's state and any actions that may be taken are known to the players. The classic example is chess. Poker isn't a perfect information game because you don't know what cards your opponents have. Now, in Wizards and Breach, each turn in isolation is a perfect information segment. There's no hidden information for any given turn. If you take each level as a whole, however, unknowns are introduced in the form of which enemies will appear. There's more to it than that though. In a true perfect information game like chess, you have all the information about the state of the game and the possible actions your opponent can take, but you don't know what your opponent is planning. A crucial difference between that and Wizards and Breach is that, in the latter, you also know what your opponent will do next. Imagine playing chess, but your opponent has decided their move before you take yours, and it won't change regardless of what you do. That's what Breach offers, but with more difficulty. Wizards is a little different. Your foe will adapt to your behavior slightly, but you'll see how they adapt and are free to rewind and do something else. Thus, these games go beyond perfect information in that aspect. The games are also deterministic, meaning that all actions taken happen the same way every time. Well, Breach does have the small chance your buildings protect themselves when attacked, a design decision made to give players a little hope of success should they find themselves in a dire situation. Without it, they'd know they failed and just quit immediately. But yes, besides that, the games are deterministic. So on a turn-by-turn basis, the games are essentially puzzles, but a crucial difference between them and regular puzzles is that the outcome of one puzzle, or turn, impacts the state and therefore difficulty of the subsequent one. If on one turn of Breach, for example, your cities take a lot of damage, you'll have to ensure that no more cities get hit for the rest of the level or you'll fail. Or in Wizards, if you use up all your mana and single-use skills early, the remaining puzzles will have to be solved without them. So in terms of genre, I think these games should be called progressive puzzlers, additive puzzlers, or cumulative puzzlers. Vote for your favorite term in the comments. New entries are welcome. Now I'm going to point you in the direction of a cool internet person who's much more talented than I am, Adam Millard, the architect of games. He has great videos on both Wizards and Breach, and in another video we see the term Breachlike. Links to all 3 below. I have only the greatest respect for Adam and the work he does. In fact, he's one of my favorite content creators. But I think for me personally, the main reason for making this video was to stop the rise of the term Breachlikes. Now, I try to stay positive on this channel, but I've had enough of terms like Soulslike, Metroidvania, and Roguelike. I had to use Roguelike earlier in my description of Breach. I've never played Rogue, I've barely seen footage of it, and I'm sure that goes for most of you, yet the term persists. I'd much rather clear, accurate terms that describe the mechanics such as FPS and 2D platformer. I'm not going to use that R word anymore. Such games shall henceforth be called looping or loopers. Fight me! Fight me! Fight me! And what specifically makes a Soulslike? It's so ambiguous. This is me in post-production. When I had basically finished making this video, I found this little gem by Mild Conviction, which sums up my thoughts on genre naming remarkably. One thing he didn't say about the term RPG is that it adds virtually nothing. It's so nebulous. In what game are you not role-playing? Okay, rant over. Moving on to the differences between Wizards and Breach, and how those differences come together to create distinct emotions despite the mechanical similarity between them. Structurally and narratively, Wizards is a linear comedy thriller. There's comedy to be found everywhere, from the mission complete screen to the way Jen keeps hating on Steve Clark. I wonder if Steve Clark is someone Tom Francis knows. Why does Tom hate him so much? What did Steve do? Was it a breach of trust? My favorite little comedic thing is that the characters already own all their own outfits, but they don't have the confidence to wear them. They gain confidence when you complete specific objectives for them. For example, Jen's bonus objectives often involve defenestrating X number of goons in a turn or level. This works both comedically and ludonarratively. That work? So many games have arbitrary goals to unlock things, including Into the Breach. In Breach, you unlock new units by completing achievements and winning gold coins. Why do time-traveling mechs need gold coins to save the world from an existential threat? I don't know. But why do psychologically damaged wizards need to prove themselves to gain the confidence to don that particularly daring outfit? Say no more. Anyway, I digress. The main difference mechanically is that Wizards allows you to endlessly try and retry various combinations, allowing for less conservative gameplay, encouraging experimentation. This makes gameplay less challenging, and there's no punishment for failure. You can restart a level at any time if you make a mistake, and you'll quickly be back at it. This design philosophy even applies to collecting the commentary tapes in the DLC. You can collect them and then rewind time as if nothing happened. The forgiving nature and linear storytelling of Wizards go hand in hand with its comedy. Imagine seeing the same joke time and again because you kept failing a challenging mission. I might jump out the window myself. Your objective in each game is a little different too. While there are mission objectives on each level in both games, Wizards has some mandatory ones which usually involve eliminating all enemies, and then there are some optional ones. In Breach, technically all mission objectives are optional. Up until the final mission, your only goal is to survive. Of course, if you don't succeed in any missions, your chances of survival drop dramatically. Another mechanical difference is that your characters in Wizards are able to pull off multiple actions per turn, sometimes allowing you to complete a level before letting the enemy do anything. While Breach's mechs can only do one action each turn, making them relatively powerless. So Wizards is more of a power fantasy, and Breach is a survival game. And by the way, I really like the way you have to sacrifice some of your minimal HP in Breach to prevent more of the Vect from reaching the surface. It creates a great sense of desperation. So what genre are these games? One of the reasons game genre is so hard to define is that there are multiple types of genre to consider. There's mechanical genre, defining the player perspective and core gameplay action. Examples include third-person shooter, isometric turn-based tactics, top-down driving, 3D platforming. There's, for lack of a better term, objective-based genre. What are you trying to achieve? Is the game focused on exploration, puzzle solving, combat, racing? There's structural genre, linear, looping, progressive looping, branching paths. There's story genre, which should really have its own video about why the naming convention there is terrible. John Truby has an interesting book on genre, and while I understand the story's emotional core and its setting are strongly linked, the idea that the Western is one of the 14 foundational genres is unacceptable. He uses the term frontier a lot during that chapter, so I propose we separate setting and emotional core and rename the Western American Frontier. Then we can stop saying space western, which when looked at literally makes no sense, and say space frontier. Okay, so we've got emotional genre, horror, comedy, romance, and so on. And we've got setting, fantasy world, 15th century London. The list is endless. Finally, there's narrative complexity, heavy narrative, emergent narrative like in World of Myth, minimal narrative which just provides context for the game, as in Breach, environmental narrative as in Dark Souls, or abstract, like chess. And to make matters more complicated, games can have multiples from any of these 6 genre subsets. For example, the Portal games are linear, light narrative, sci-fi, comedy, first-person platforming, shooting, puzzlers. Wizards is a linear, heavy narrative, futuristic, fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, thriller, isometric, grid-based, turn-based tactics, mission-oriented, power fantasy, cumulative puzzler. And Breach is a looping, minimal narrative, futuristic, apocalyptic, sci-fi, isometric, grid-based, turn-based tactics, survival, cumulative puzzler. You know what? It's unreasonable to expect people to start describing games this way. Maybe Breachlike isn't so bad after all. If some genre-defining game comes out, why not just use it to refer to games that emulate it? If we use Breachlikes for isometric, grid-based, turn-based tactics, enemy manipulation, cumulative puzzlers, I'm okay with that. But my point remains, it's important to change the way we think about genre. We shouldn't just use the word Breachlike willy-nilly, without understanding or pinpointing exactly what makes a Breachlike a Breachlike. I don't think it has to strictly be isometric or grid-based to be a Breachlike, but I would say a godlike view of an area the characters move around in is necessary, along with being a turn-based cumulative puzzler with enemy manipulation. And hey, Metroidvania is pretty well defined. I'll give that a pass too. Even Soulslike if we follow mild convictions analysis. Watch it. Watch it. I stand by not saying the R word anymore, though it only has one defining feature. Just rename it. If you're looking for more Breachlikes, the only other one I know is Tyrant's Blessing. I'd describe it as looping, minimal narrative, dystopian medieval fantasy, mission-oriented. My vote's for cumulative puzzler in case you hadn't noticed. What's yours? Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm going to try to get a video out once a month. That should give me enough time to play a game, consolidate my thoughts, and put it all together. I have a day job, so we'll see how that goes. Citizen Sleeper 2 came out very recently, and I loved the first one, so most likely that's what my next game will be about. So if you don't want to miss the next one, like and subscribe. Bye!